I should probably preface this hunt by saying this was my very first TV hunt.
Really?
Oh yeah, and I was like little Robbie in the Christmas Story when he pulls that Red Ryder BB gun with the compass in the stock. I don't know if, Larry, you probably don't remember this, but this is where you and I met. And
I do remember.
Growing up, watching all these guys on TV, Mr. Weisshu, and I'm Luke. But all that aside, this was an absolute fantastic hunt. Peak of the rut, mid-November, and there are deer everywhere. And I was absolutely having a blast. We were seeing mature bucks, nothing quite that we wanted to shoot. It was a 4-day hunt, but when you see a decent buck like this, you know, telling yourself to hold out is, at least for me, it's tricky. Now I know Larry, he's big on old deer, but for me, this was a difficult buck to watch.
It looks like a nice buck to me, but again, it all comes down to where you're hunting and what your goals are. And as we all know, TV hunting is not the same as just going hunting because you have a goal in hand to get a TV show. So sometimes you have to make concessions, sometimes you have to pass a deer, sometimes you got to take a deer just to, you know, stay in the job.
Well, I'm real familiar with this property, and I was one that set the management program up on it, and it was a big, contiguous 12,000 acres that we had to deal with. Most of the time, we don't have that much acreage to really try to set up.
In fact, we had that question when we were out at the Zook Cabin at the Eastern Sports Show in Harrisburg.
What can we do to get a little better buck on a small 300-acre property?
My recommendation is to make that 300 acres as comfortable as possible because as we all realize, 300 acres is generally not going to hold a deer all the time there.
And you've got to set realistic goals too. I mean, what is, in everyone's opinion, a better deer? You know, where I grew up in Minnesota, this is a very solid deer because the hunting pressure is so high, and you know, when the crops are out in the fall and the slug season is rolling, there's not a lot of cover for these deer to hide in.
I think the realistic goals thing is really important, and two, what you say, the only difference what I would do is I would concentrate my efforts in the center of that property.
Yeah.
That's where I'd set up the food plots, and I might even go a little bit farther than that and do some fertilization of native browse species that are there, and maybe do some planting of native browse species if I could, and then I would pretty much hunt the perimeter and leave that center part of that property only to food and cover for those animals to feel comfortable in. Hey, this is a TV show, and in this instance, it's your first TV show. You know, you want to go on the second TV show hunt as well.
Absolutely.
So, you know, chances are pretty darn good that if you're going to get a chance at a deer such as this, you're going to shoot, and that's what I would be encouraging for you to do.
So I'm guessing if you didn't want to go on unemployment, you're probably pulling the trigger here.
Oh,
so.
it was simply a lack of options. I mean, what does one do? There you go.
Shot.
There you go.
Good shot.
I wanted this deer something fierce. I got a little bit selfish, and I wanted to be on TV. Let's face it, I wanted to be on TV. That deer clearly is not 140, but it is a beautiful animal, and
Yes,
I was
he is.
more than tickled to take him.
Oh, it's a pretty buck. He made a nice shot, and he made good TV. I mean, just look where the recovery is. That's kind of unique in itself. It fell into this little sinkhole there in the woods, and man, I'm envious. That was a nice hunt.
Well, you're envious because you didn't have to help me pull him out of there.